To the BHS, British Home Stores. Have you ever wondered how multimillionaires make it into becoming billionaires? This is how. Sympathy for BHS's 11,000 staff deepens when you read how Dominic Chappell, the boss of its owner, Retail Acquisitions, finished his farewell email to staff. I would like to say it has been a real pleasure working with all of you on this BHS project, one I will never forget. Crassly missing the required tone. No, Mr. Chappell, BHS was never a project for the staff. It is how they earned their living and made plans for their future and retirements. On one point, though, Chappell was correct. BHS was always going to be very, very hard to turn around. It is an underinvested, loss-making chain in a corner of a tough retail market where the death of the department store was being debated even before internet shopping arrived. Dutch-owned C&A, remember, pulled out of the UK as long ago as 2000. It would be hard to say it was mourned for long, but given the odds against the BHS project succeeding, there is an urgent question. How much responsibility for the £571 million deficit in the pension fund lies with Sir Philip Green, who sold BHS to Chappell and his experienced crew for £1 a year ago? The answer is clearly not none. The principle is clear. Former owners cannot wash their hands of a pension problem simply by selling a business for a tokenal sum. Even Green implicitly acknowledged as much when he offered the Pension Protection Fund a 40 million contribution plus a write-off of a 40 million loan. However, 80 million is plainly inadequate in the context of a 571 million deficit. It also looks like small change when you recall that Green, or strictly speaking, his wife, took 400 million in dividends out of BHS in happier times. The Greens might argue that it was a long time ago and that the failure of BHS at the point of sale last year was not inevitable. Green anticipated the question at the time by insisting that the sale was 100% clean. Quote, "If I give you my plane, right, and you tell me you're a great driver and you crash it into the first fucking mountain, is that my fault?" End quote, he asked. But it's not that simple. BHS fitness to fly was influenced, to some degree, by decisions taken under Green's ownership. That's not just about dividends, property transactions, and the plan to address the pension deficit after 2012. Triennial review are also relevant. There is also, to follow Green's metaphor, the small matter of who you entrust with a plane carrying 11,000 staff and 20,000 pensioners. Chappell was formerly bankrupt. In trying to rewire BHS, he was attempting a task that had defeated Green. Nobody should be surprised that Retail Acquisitions failed to secure the necessary finance. For all those reasons, the pensions regulator should put the maximum squeeze on Green if necessary. The Pension Protection Fund is paid for by a levy on other final salary schemes, so any shortfall would rebound elsewhere. Indeed, the credibility of the scheme, born as a reaction to past scandals such as Robert Maxwell, depends on the outcome of BHS being seen as fair and reasonable. What that means in terms of hard sums can only be described once the administrator has gone to work and a precise pension shortfall can be defined. In the meantime, however, recall Green's farewell message when he sold the business. Quote, "I am deeply proud of the work ethic displayed by the very many people I have worked with for so long at BHS, both within our head office and across the stores," end quote, he said. Over the past 16 years, the BHS pension fund has fallen from 5 million surplus into a 571 million deficit. Here's a small chart. 2000, he buys BHS for 200 million. First year, he's up 5 million. Second year, up 17 million. 2009, the fund records a deficit of 137.9 million. BHS agrees to inject additional contributions of 2.5 million, raising to 7.3 million in 2012 as part of a 23-year recovery plan for the deficit. 2008, the financial crash sees the surplus shrink to 3.4 million. 2015, after Green sells BHS to a group of city investors for £1, pension trustees write to members, warning that the company's two funds had a combined deficit of 225.6 million. The deficit increases and increases. 2016, the pension deficit is potentially 571 million. On the basis that the company is facing insolvency, Green is understood to have offered 40 million in cash to help support the fund, which has 20,000 members. Now, what's absolutely fascinating is how he's just allowed to do this, and there's nothing anyone can do. And I think the main point that sums it all up is this paragraph here, is Mr. Green has taken that 400 million, gives it to his wife. That money clearly came directly from the pension pot, and the remaining 171 million deficit has obviously been used to pay off his crony friends. Let this go through. Let me get away with this 400 million, and I'll give you 50 million, I'll give you 50 million, and I'll give you 20 million. It's just disgusting how people like this call themselves businessmen. They're nothing but thieves and low-life scum. Have no idea what a hard day's work really is. And there should be only one punishment for doing this to the 11,000 workers and the 20,000 pensioners.